Building reading skills. Before, during, and after reading strategies. Tips for reading informational texts. What are informational texts? Informational texts are writings that mainly give information on a topic. Examples include news reports, magazines, science or history books, autobiographies, and instruction manuals. The elements of an informational text includes maps, tables, timelines, visuals, and an index at the end of a book. Tips for reading informational texts. Before reading an informational text, you might set a purpose for reading, ask yourself why you are reading this particular text, look over the text to see which elements appear, such as headings, subheadings, illustrations, and captions, examine the titles, headings, and subheadings, and scan for words that stand out. Look for words and phrases that might give you clues about how the information is organized. Read any overviews, summaries, or questions. In a shorter piece, read the opening and concluding sentences or paragraphs. Examine each illustration and read the titles or captions. Recall what you already know about the topic, and record some questions you might have about the topic. During reading, you might divide the reading task into smaller chunks, chunking the text into paragraphs, chunking section by subheadings, etc. Read a chunk, pause and think about what you read, and write a brief one-sentence summary or brief point-form notes to help you remember important and interesting information. Read quickly, then slowly. Skim the sections you think will support your purpose for reading. When you find specific information you want, slow down and read it word by word. You may need to reread the passage several times. Read the selection and jot down thoughts, responses to your questions, and new questions that occur to you. After reading, read the selection again to confirm the main idea and supporting details. Make connections to what you already know about the topic. How does this information you have read add to or alter what you already knew about the topic? Record your thinking about and responses to the text. For example, write a summary, complete a graphic organizer, create a sketch, or orally retell to yourself or a friend. Tips for reading graphical texts. What is a graphical text? It's a text that presents information using visual features. The elements of graphic texts are 1. Graphic features, 2. Print features, 3. Layout features, 4. Design features. Before reading, you might set a purpose for reading. Ask yourself why you are reading this particular text. Look over the text to determine what type it is and which elements are used. Examine the titles, headings, captions, and images. Start with the title. The title tells you what the graphic is about. The caption may also use words and phrases from the text to show how the graphic is related to the information in the written text. Recall what you already know about the topic or subject. Record some questions you might have about the information presented. During reading, read all the labels and examine how they're related to the graphic. Each label has a purpose. The most important labels may be in capital letters, bold type, or a large font. Follow the arrows and lines. They may be used to show movement or direction, or connect to the things they name. Look for the use of color or symbols to emphasize important words or information. Some graphical texts have a legend or a key to explain the meaning of specific symbols and colors. Study the image carefully. See if you recognize the details in the image. Read the text near the pictures to find an explanation of the information in the graphic. Use the figure number or title and keywords to find and read the related information in the written text. Identify the relationship among the visuals and information presented. After reading, interpret the information conveyed in any of the graphics. Ask yourself why this information might be important. Rephrase information orally or in writing. Imagine that you are explaining the graphic to someone who has not read it. Create your own graphic text. Tips for reading narratives. What is a narrative? A narrative text is a story that retells events that are meant to entertain the reader. Examples include On the Sidewalk Bleeding, The Catcher in the Rye, The Hunger Games, Cinderella. Elements include exposition, rising action, conflict, climax, falling action, and resolution. Before reading, read the title and think about what might happen in the story, or what the essay might be about. Does this title suggest any connections to your own life or raise any questions? Recall other selections you may have read by this author. Look at any illustrations. What did they tell you about the story or subject? Look the text over and sample the text to note its length, organization, level of language, and structure. Pay attention to punctuation. During reading, as you read, ask questions about what is happening. Make predictions about what might happen next. Form opinions about what is going on. Think about your responses and reactions to what you are reading. Making notes can help you focus your reading as you read. Picture the setting, events, or images in your mind. Sketch them. As you read, imagine how the words will be spoken and see the action. While reading a narrative selection, try the following. Read the first page and pause. What do you know so far about the people, characters, setting, conflict, and point of view? Where do you think the storyline is going? Make connections to what you already know. Who are the people and how are they related to each other? Put yourself in their place. What would you say or do? After reading, write down favorite quotations from the text. Share and compare them with a partner. Create a visual interpretation of the text, such as a web, story map, or timeline, to show the relationship among the major characters and their feelings and attitudes. Create a sensory web of the setting. Use a graphic organizer to illustrate the story's plot or sequence of events, situation, complications, climax, and resolution. Retell, summarize the content in your own words, orally or in writing.